Ghost Trail. Ghost Trail was a TV program of a kind known the world over, and it had a loyal following in spite of never managing in all its years to capture on film anything more exciting than the performer's reaction to supernatural occurrences rather than the occurrences themselves. The wobble of handheld cameras gave a cinema verite feel to the dimly lit scenes in abandoned houses, old prisons, underground caves, all filmed by the light of torches and equipment that bathed the fuzzy picture in a green glow, even though full studio lighting was available if they had cared to use it. Black and white was the preferred medium, other than for the night vision green and orange-red images from heat-sensing cameras. The ghost detecting equipment was an integral part of the show, dauntingly scientific in name. It could in fact be purchased online for a few dollars from outlets advertising their products in a very matter-of-fact way, with insouciant headings such as Ghost Hunting Equipment. Below is a list of the most commonly recommended items for use in ghost hunting. Particle detectors, ion detectors, infrared motion detectors, infrared thermometers, dowsing rods, melmeters. Those were the most commonly recommended. Less commonly recommended was equipment that one can only assume it would be responsible to sell to amateurs. The cast of Ghost Trail liked to refer to their equipment by initials whenever possible. DVR, EVP, EMF. My DVR is showing activity. I'll take a reading on my EVP. There's an unusually strong EMF. We'll catch it on the IMD. The melmeters, of course, were full spectrum. They would have been utterly useless otherwise. Pieces of kit not much longer than a cell phone. They might have been cell phones that glowed in the dark and verified, without any doubt at all, that there was energy present. Energy that was trapped in a wall, a paving stone, or the air itself. The presence of energy meant the presence of spirits. As Bradley frequently explained, technically, spirits are energy that hasn't been used. It was a shame he never gave a non-technical explanation, so we might all understand. The long-running success of Ghost Trail was in no small measure due to the skill, cunning almost, with which the team was assembled. A psychic, Caitlin, who could be relied on to know if spirits were present, even without the aid of a DVR. In fact, Caitlin had no faith in DVRs, or EVPs if you pressed her. She just knew if there were spirits around, and who could contradict her. A skeptic, Dr. James, whose role was to create an impression of balance by raising doubts, only little ones, about there being anything supernatural happening at all, and counteract the rock-solid certainty of Caitlin with the mildest of plausible alternative explanations for the various shocking incidents the team was exposed to. Bradley, a hard-nosed, hard-hatted bruiser of a man, with a tough guy name and no end of things clanking from his thick belt. A no-nonsense firm believer in the spirit world, who was always the first to put himself in danger, such as opening a creaking door and fearlessly entering a room in which they had had a pre-production meeting that afternoon. Wholly inarticulate in post-investigation discussion, but verbally liberal when in action, to the point of Tourette's, with his repeated battle cry, "Okay, man, let's do it," cranking up the excitement immeasurably when things seemed to flag. A medium, Courtney. Her function was to hold seances, and even to become possessed if an accommodating spirit happened to be passing that way, which tended to be when any other member of the team looked like upstaging her. The skill was to keep the fits appropriate to the level of possession, and to the character of the possessor, by which I mean, to adopt European terminology, no more than was necessary and proportionate in pursuit of the legitimate aim vis-a-vis preventing anyone from stealing her big scene. The repertoire of shocking incidents was no different from those in the dozen other TV shows of a like kind, and included cold spots that no one could disprove. Do you feel that? Yes, I feel it. I'm so friggin' cold, man. So am I. Oh my God. Sound recordings, which were made in an empty room, but when they were played back, there was noise on the tape, such as the squeaking of a loose spool in the crude recording device. Oh my God. Invisible things being brushed against the performers. Something just touched my hand. Mine too. Oh my God. Footsteps. Listen to that. What is it? Footsteps. Yes, I hear them. Oh my God. Most important of all, the sound of heavy breathing. This was provided off-screen by Vince, the cameraman, and rather too often it descended into the sound of Vince's badly suppressed laughter. Oh my God. When they visited a room and had exhausted all touchings, footsteps, trapped energy, EMF, cold spots, heavy breathing, someone would say with unprovoked passion, "I need to get out of here. Something doesn't want us to be here," or "I can't breathe." This heralded an offstage bang or an unexplained scream, and the team would quickly move on to the next fantastic phenomenon with no explanation at all for what had just happened, or not happened, depending on your perspective. Sometimes they reached the door to a room, and improvisation, rather than courage, failed them altogether, and they would say things like, "There's something evil in there, I can feel it." This might or might not be corroborated by an EVP reading. In any event, they would leave the door unopened and whatever was on the other side unexplored and unexplained. In a period of crisis, Ghost Trail itself had a near-death experience and came close to slipping into the afterlife of TV shows, doomed for eternity to be repeated on cable channels with bigger and bigger numbers, until so far down the TV listings no one could seriously be thought to watch them, and advertising space was more or less free. Caitlin, the psychic, was arrested by the IRS for tax fraud. She never saw that coming. And hit the bottle the same day the story hit the tabloids. Unless they filmed it from a police cell in Van Nuys, the show was in real difficulties. Either she was replaced, and quickly, or the network would have no choice but to pull the plug. Enter Madison. Her existing, albeit fragile, celebrity and her natural ability to lie on tap convincingly, which the chat shows had scarcely begun to exploit, coupled with, most important of all, her relationship with her dead twin sister, spurred the producers of Ghost Trail into the high-risk strategy of throwing Madison to the spirits in a desperate make-or-break bid to keep the show on the air. She quickly saw the danger of being resented by the existing cast, even though she might more charitably have been thought of as their savior. She came onto the show a higher-ranking celebrity than any of them. They were known faces, but only to a relatively small, regular audience, and none of them had been on Letterman. When Madison walked into a diner, she could expect heads to turn. The cast of Ghost Trail walked in begging for recognition, and often acted as though they had been recognized by diners who hadn't the faintest idea who they were, and didn't care much either. So Madison had to battle against an initial unhelpfulness from the whole team, and in particular, a determination in the jealous Courtney to make her fail. To the irritation of them all, Madison took to her supernatural role like a duck to water. A bat to moonlight, many thought more appropriate. She was, of course, an only child, and there had never been any twin, dead or alive, which made it all the more remarkable when she was warned, and with such urgency, on the very first show by the spirit of her dead twin sister not to enter a certain room with a shimmering green door which the night vision camera was pointing at. The mystery was deeper than anyone in the TV audience could possibly have fathomed. Not only was there a ghost trying to stop Madison entering the room, but the ghost was lying about being her sister. "Are there any spirits in there? Speak to us!" Why any spirit should even contemplate doing so, having nothing whatsoever in common with any of them, was a bigger mystery than Ghost Trail ever cared to explore. "Spirits, what are you trying to tell us?" Vince, the cameraman, had his ideas, but kept them to himself. "Quiet, everyone! Do you hear that?" Madison assumed a dramatic intensity more like Lillian Gish than Jessica Lange. "Hush! Footsteps! Do you hear them?" You should understand that it was the accepted role of anyone who was off camera at such a moment to walk either towards or away from the microphone, so that those who were on camera could legitimately get themselves in a lather about a ghost pacing up and down somewhere out of the picture. It happened to be Courtney who was off camera then, and whose clear duty it was to start walking. But she was so put out that Madison was surviving her initiation with panache that she stood with her arms folded across her chest and refused to provide the slightest oral confirmation of footsteps, either towards the microphone or away from it, or on the ceiling for all she cared. "Footsteps!" said Bradley with an angry stare at Courtney which carried every commanding ounce of his hallmark expression. "Okay, let's do it!" Courtney stood her ground and didn't do it. "I'm not sure," faltered Dr. James, and Vince stifled a snort. But Madison, wholly unfazed, came riding to the rescue. "Is that you, Alice?" Alice, a seminal moment in TV history. Madison, from nowhere in particular, had dreamed up a name never before mentioned for her non-existent dead twin sister. The researchers put in a good few hours checking interviews to make sure Madison had not previously given her sister a different name. Happily, no other christening was found, so the never-born but dead Alice was baptized accordingly. "Alice, speak to me. Why don't you want me to go into that room?" Alice, had she existed, would not have cared less if Madison went into the room or went shopping on Rodeo Drive. The room was empty, except for a broken wicker table buckled over its 3 remaining legs, some orange boxes stuffed with decayed papers of no importance to anyone, and, of course, energy. Loads of it. Trapped energy. Energy that hadn't been used up. Courtney was not to be outdone. She staggered into view like Lucia di Lammermoor in her mad scene, possessed by Alice, who, it would seem, was suffering from an extremely heavy chest cold. "Don't go there. Don't go there," she rasped, using only the longest and deepest sounding of her vocal cords. Now, each of these 2 rival girls was in the power of the other. Madison could easily have exposed Courtney as a fraud by asking Alice questions about her family, which she knew Courtney could not answer, and Courtney could have let slip some embarrassing revelations of her own invention about Madison's past. But both of them were troopers, and the show went on, as it had to, with the benefit of their mutual assistance. Madison made a wise decision to ignore the initial hostility toward her, and even came to Courtney's rescue by interrupting a torrent of spiritual explanation as to why no one should go into the room, which was about to become preposterous, even by that show's standards, with a sudden and indisputable proclamation. "She's gone! She's gone!" Which Courtney had the sense to understand meant, "Shut the fuck up." A long sigh and a wistful look at Dr. James. "She's gone," repeated Madison sadly, with a shake of her weary head and a courageous smile. "Boy, that was tough." Dr. James put a comforting arm around the emotionally shattered surviving twin. Courtney was far too savvy not to realize that Madison was going to be a hit, and she made no further attempt to sabotage her success on the show. She even apologized, saying that she wasn't feeling too well and didn't know what had possessed her to behave the way she had. When Madison replied that it must be the first time anything had possessed her, they fell about laughing and became the firmest of friends. Madison's role on Ghost Trail was assured. She was a natural. The risk had paid off, and the producers were satisfied that she could be relied on to react violently to nothing for an indeterminate number of episodes in the future. When it would all come to an end, neither Madison nor Courtney nor any of them, not even with the help of the DVRs, EVPs, EMFs, and the full spectrum meters, could tell. But the irony was not lost on the newcomer that, whilst not a single one of them had the slightest belief in the psychic nonsense they served up to their sad viewers, each of them predicted with unerring certainty that Caitlin would be found guilty of revenue fraud and sent to jail.